Hooray, you found us. This is The Flower of Freedom by Deborah J. Reeves. That's me. This is chapter 29. It's called Confrontation. And as always, all the rights to the presentation and to my book are reserved. Let's begin. As it turned out, not only did Marie write a letter a week to Mama and Papa, but she also wrote one per week to Bertie, and so did his geek squad. Marie did not have to keep him abreast of what was happening around her. His friends did. Philippe wrote to Bertie every week, sometimes twice a week, when something had happened. Joseph could be counted on to write weekly, and Michaud wrote sporadically, depending on his chemistry lab schedule and his dating life. Michaud was astounded by Marie's brilliance in chemistry class, and he told Bertie in one letter, "I have no idea how she does it. She gets an A on every lab, and her papers are always the first ones handed in. She'll help anyone to understand what the teachers can't explain. I think she understands it better than the teacher does. I think I'm in love." Bertie also received sporadic letters from some of the jock types who were hoping to get the inside track on to Marie. Those letters were sporadic, if interesting though. When some of the letters started to feel like they were taking a dark tone, Bertie took it upon himself to write Uncle Aki without worrying his parents. It was a good thing that Bertie had written to Aki. Even though he had never mentioned it, Aki began to look around, and it opened his eyes to some of what had previously flown under his radar. He started to observe the actions of some of the boys he had formerly deemed the right sort, and he was more discomfited by the day. It made him reflect on some of what he had taken for granted when he was that age, and he shuddered a little. When the call came from the school, he was somewhat forearmed. It was one of the geek squad who first informed Bertie about the incident that involved one of the jocks. For almost 2 months, Damien had asked Marie out to a variety of venues. She consistently and politely said no thank you, and she made no excuses. After 2 months of frustrating rejection, Damien Dumont, the son of a wealthy financier in Paris, a young man who had never been told no in his whole life, the guy Philippe frequently called the cock of the walk, decided that this sort of slight could not be tolerated. He accosted Marie in the hallway at school, in front of his gang of friends. He brazenly walked up to Marie as she went from one class to another with her girlfriends. There in front of everyone in the hallway, he stood directly in Marie's path, with a challenge in his eyes and a smirk on his lips. She looked up into his face to find no information there, so she sidestepped him and she tried to go around him. In response, he reached up and under her cashmere sweater set. Without the slightest hesitation, Marie dropped her books and she hit him directly in the throat, causing him to crumple to the floor, sputtering for breath. She bent to pick up her books, and as she did, she said to him in a whisper, "Do not ever touch me again." His gang laughed, the school nurse was called, and some of the girls of the socialite set were eager to demand that Marie be punished. There was pandemonium after that, but Marie and her friends left it all behind as she made their way to their next class, as though nothing had occurred. It was not over for Damien, though. He called his father, who called the school, to demand that Marie be expelled. And then Monsieur de Monte arrived in person to drive his expectation home. The school called Paulette at home and Aki at his office. Aki went directly to the school, while Paulette sat home and brooded. She called her socialite friends for their advice. Marie simply went on with all her classes, unaware of the furor going on around her. By the time Aki arrived at the school, Damien's father had made his demands. Aki listened quietly, and then he asked for more information about how the fracas had started. "Forgive me, headmaster, but you do know Mary Claire. She's 5'2" tall, and from memory, Damien is a full head and shoulders taller than she is. Are you telling me that my little Mary Claire set out to assault a young athlete out of malice and forethought? It's hard to imagine." Damien's father, who had come up against Aki's tenacious negotiation style in business, started to look worried. That's the end of this chapter. The next one is chapter 30, and it's called The Witnesses. Please come back for the next one. We'll miss you till you do. Bye.